Hello everyone, I'm Nipun Goyal. I'm the founder and CEO of LikeMinds. Today I'm going to talk about some of our learnings around how a community can monetize itself. Just to give you a little background, before this, I was running this community of doctors called Curify, where we had about 50% of Indian doctors using it primarily to discuss cases with each other. We were able to sort of scale it to a decent level and monetize it, and eventually exit it to a US-based healthcare giant. So some of my learnings are derived from that, but more importantly, I've been working with a lot of community managers over the last couple of years, trying to see what all have worked for them and what all have not. And this session is basically a summary of all those learnings. Today I'm going to talk about a framework that I believe can work for any micro entrepreneur who is building a community at the core of the venture. Now, why is monetization important? Like a lot of people have asked me, we could always start for free. My answer to those questions is that monetization essentially helps you force yourself to deliver value to early members, because a lot of times you would see that members would join a community, but eventually they would not engage that much. And early members are the most important members. They define the DNA of your community. So there is this concept called single person utility. I've written a lot about it. You can sort of read some of my articles on it. But just to summarize, single person utility is basically solving for chicken and egg in any social network. Whenever you're building, a community, you face that dilemma of how do I get the initial members, and what is the value that I can offer to the first 5 or first 10 members who join the community. Now, those first 5 or 10 members, you need to think that whether the first person who joined the community is getting some value from you as a community manager or not. Now, that value, which is independent of the value that the other community members are going to offer to that first member, is called single person utility. So, for example, Twitter started as a micro blogging website, but the single person utility was to send equivalent of an SMS to a lot of people together. Similarly, Facebook started off as a hot or not website, fun single person utility, where Mark had collated a lot of data around the college graduates, the college students that were studying at Harvard at that time. So, that is the thing about single person utility, that you have to, as a community manager yourself, ensure that the early members are not dependent on the other members to find that value. So, monetizing your community forces yourself to deliver that value to the early members. Then it also helps you to get serious members in the community. So as I said, a lot of times you would see that people would just come to try out your community. But what you don't want in the early days is that people are just coming and going, because that just screws up the whole DNA of the community. So if you have something where you have some level of exclusivity or some level of paid membership in your community, it brings serious members to your community, and that keeps the DNA right. And third, and the most important part I feel is, community management is hard. It takes up a lot of time for the community manager, and a lot of community managers start community building as a hobby out of passion. But what we've realized, and again, this is based on a lot of interactions that I've had with different community managers over the last couple of years. If you are not monetizing your community in some way, you will not be able to sustain the community as a individual community manager. So, brands are able to sustain because, they have multiple people. Even if, let's say, a single community manager, there is a fatigue time period of about 18 months, which generally, triggers, and people are not able to continue beyond that point. Brands can afford to change community managers rapidly. But if you want to build a community of yourself, if you want to start it for a long-term perspective, sustainability of community is very, very important, and that is what monetization gives you. So we've learned why. The next step is, how. So how do I monetize my community? So this is a very interesting framework, very, very minimalistic framework that we've created for people who are trying to, start a micro community and monetize it. We have created a lot of modules as well for you during this bootcamp program, and during this training tutorial sessions. We'll continuously talk about these modules. So the first thing that you need to do before you start monetizing your community is to clarify the pitch. Now the pitch for your community, your community pitch should have a unique value that you as a community manager can promise to all the members, all the future members, but more importantly, the early members of your community. So you need to find out that unique value that you can offer, and then you can add some value, assuming that the early members will come and then they will be able to deliver value to the other members of the community. So creating the pitch should ideally take you 2 to 3 hours of time. I'm assuming that you've been doing research for a while now. Now you just need to think of that one value, or at least multiple values, out of which there is one value which you are yourself delivering to the early members. The next step is, creating marketing collaterals. Once you've figured out your pitch, then you need to start working on, creating brochures, creating ad copies, creating your website. You will need to do a little bit of market research to know what are the existing options out there for your target group. By the way, one more thing, your pitch must include some level of empathy towards the problem that you're trying to solve with the community. And marketing collateral should go into a little bit of depth of how you're solving that problem for your early members. So you've basically created your pitch, you've created the marketing collaterals. Now comes the hard work of building trust. Now, trust building is probably the most difficult part of everything in the whole process, because once you start marketing your community, especially if you're building a paid membership community, unless you build trust, people will not pay for your community. Now, building trust is not just a couple of weeks phenomena, but you can just start with basic level of trust building by, let's say, creating your website, creating your social media presence. You can generate trust in your niche by creating a lot of good content, talking to a lot of good people. So I'm sure a lot of you would have done some level of work already. So a lot of times people build trust by their existing credentials, which is the best way to actually do that. But sometimes you're just starting, so just creating a lot of good content around it is also a very, very good way to do that. So in this, like our program as well, we will help you in building your own website, and we'll give you templates on how to sort of reflect trust building on your website. Along with, we will also train you towards building your social media presence. We'll train you on how to use YouTube, Instagram, and some of these other social media channels to create trust amongst early members. So this whole process will take at least, just setting up the whole process will take up at least a week or two, assuming 2-3 hours a day of work. And then, once you have built that trust, you can start onboarding early members by doing paid ads, by doing content marketing. As I said, we'll have sessions on that as well for you during this program. And once you start getting some of these early members who are showing interest in joining your community, you need to onboard them on your community and start delivering value from the word go. The moment the person enters your community, you become responsible for adding value to their life in the way that you promised to them. So, it's simple. You onboard them, you try to sort of have a launch day plan, and you sort of try to quickly accumulate at least, half a dozen kind of community members and bring them on the launch event. Try to understand from them, show them your plans, bring them into the loop of building the whole community with you, while also showing them that you have thought out a lot on what value can you offer yourself. Once you're done with that, you need to just execute, deliver value, use that, to generate testimonials, show those testimonials on your website, on your social media, create more content, do whatever you did in the first phase to build more trust, and just repeat this process again and again and again. And I can assure you that you will be able to grow forever. Of course, as the community size increases, there would be more dynamics, but this is the most simplistic simplistic timeline of monetizing your community. So yeah, now that we've seen the structure, I want to show you how it is done. So this is an example of a community called Soul Savvy. Soul Savvy is a community of sneaker enthusiasts. I'm sure a lot of you would be already aware of the sneaker culture in Canada, how people are like the sneaker enthusiasts find it difficult to get their hands on to their favorite sneakers. So this community is very, very interesting. They've been building a paid membership community on Slack for a while now. I spoke to the founder some time back. He told me that there is a huge waiting list for his community. There are almost about 6,000 members who are already part of the community, and they have a very high waiting list for the community. Now, how did that happen? I think it started with a pitch. The founder told me that he had put in a lot of time to create that buzz, to create that wait list even before the community got live. And that is exactly what you need to do. So I'm actually going to share the link of their video so that you can know how they pitch their community to their potential members. So yeah, if you've seen the video, great, you would have already seen how they pitch, but I'll just summarize for you guys. What they are offering is not only the community but a lot of values for their members and potential members. They have these sneaker monitors which they've built. They have these this ability to help you discover new sneakers from your favorite brands. They have this ability to help you shop faster. They also train you for courses on how to sort of evaluate the right sneakers for you and how to buy the right sneakers at the right time. They also offer member-only content, videos, walkthroughs, a lot of coupons and discounts for their members. So all these are values that they are offering, without being dependent on the other members in the community. So, my point is that community is going to be important, but you as a brand, you need to start off thinking of yourself as a brand, and you need to offer some value to them so that, the early members can find it interesting. And once the community cycle triggers in, then I'm sure you can do a lot more. Now, moving on, we've learned how to pitch, we've seen the framework. Now, what model should I use to monetize my community? We've seen multiple models. I want to cover 4 broad models today. The first one is paid membership, which I feel is the best model out of the whole 4. And by the way, you don't need to choose like between one of them. You can use all 4 models as well to monetize your community. So paid membership, I feel, is the most beautiful because it just makes everything simple, that whoever is finding value in your community, they should pay for joining the community, and it by default clears out that over time, let's say someone is not finding enough value in your community, they would by themselves leave your community. So at any point in time, only the members who are interested in the value proposition of the community will stay in the community. Now, there are 2 ways to do paid membership communities. One is a recurring payment model where you set a monthly, quarterly, half-yearly or annual pricing. We've already seen some of the examples of communities like Defense Tribe, Wellness, community where the community managers or rather the community entrepreneurs have already seen some success in finding members for recurring payments. There are tons of communities which are being run today on Slack around recurring payments and even one-time payment, which I'm going to talk about next. But before I do that, I want to highlight one thing, that especially for recurring payment communities, you have to focus a lot on doing certain recurring activities depending on the type of community that you're running. So for example, if you're running a language learning community, practice sessions are very, very important, as a recurring event. Could be reading practice, speaking practice. Similarly, you could run, let's say, sessions like Ask Me Anything sessions, and there are a lot of these things that are available, and we also have certain templates for you. So do check out with your buddy to get these templates. Now the next model, as I said, within the paid membership is the one-time payment model. Here the focus is only to cut out weed and get serious members in your community, and having the ability to upsell some of the other services in future to them. So yeah, that is the paid membership model. I would advise you to definitely have this. You can start small if you're not confident. We've seen like a lot of community managers who started with us, who did free initially, but when we told them that about the model of community entrepreneurship and paid membership model, they started charging 99 rupee a quarter kind of thing, and very, very quickly they started seeing members wanting to join their community even after paying, and then they kept on increasing price for the same. So people who started with 99 a quarter have today some of them reached to about 4 times of that initial value. So you could also do that if you're less confident, but it will be always better if you're more confident and you can charge a price which is the maximum that you can command from the target audience that you want in your community. Now the next is structured training sessions. This is, as the name suggests, you as a community manager, you're responsible for making upskilling your community members. Whatever domain that you figured you want to focus on, I am sure you could find out a structured training session for your members. Try to do it either by yourself or finding a instructor or a mentor who you can do some level of revenue sharing with. Generally, these are small batch kind of sessions where you could target somewhere between about 20 odd members who could become part of these structured training sessions. You could set a price, for our Indian community managers somewhere around 200 to 400 rupee per hour. For our Western counterparts, it could go higher or lower depending on the per capita income that you have. But I think you should try to think of this as a benchmark on what is the price in terms of number of hours I want to command for my structured training session. And then the third layer is the duration. It can range from as low as 8 hours to 100 hours. So for example, if you want to run a masterclass which is spread across, let's say 2 days for 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 days for 2 hours, we have like one community already on LikeMinds which does that. They have like these 5-day, 2-hour, 1.5-hour masterclass, which they are already running. Similarly, you could also offer like a course, full-fledged course. For example, one of our language learning communities now partnering with certain instructors to give a formal A1 level education to their community members. Now, those sessions are generally, more structured, more longer, somewhere close to the 100-hour number. Now, some of the points that you should keep in mind while designing the courses is that people would expect that you give them a certificate. Don't be shy. Think of yourself as a brand. If you are getting some instructor on board to do these sessions with you, do a joint certificate with them. Sometimes your certificate may not have that much value in terms of industry accepting it, but it just gives them a different level of confidence. The members who are going to participate in your sessions, they feel a lot more satisfied after getting that certificate. Another practice could be, let's say if you're charging membership fee for your community, and if it's a long course for something like let's say a 100-hour course which is distributed across 3 months, try to give them a free membership as an add-on to your course, because that will also help them taste the value of the community, and even after the course they may take the paid membership after getting basic level of training and after they have seen some value from your community. Now the next model is the event model. Very simple. You could have a lot of events for your community members. Very interesting model here is you could offer certain discounts or free events to your paid members, and you could have like a prize for people who are not paying for the membership of the community. This could be a great way to acquire members in your paid membership community, or otherwise you could run offers like, let's say there is 100% discount for members or 60% discount for members. So you lure into getting them to buy the membership at a much cheaper price if it's a couple deal along with the event. Generally, we've seen that events work best along with paid membership communities. Free events, either your community is really large. If that's not the case, it takes like a lot of marketing effort, and sometimes the returns are not that great unless you're seeing that as a mode of acquisition in your community. As I said, in those cases, you could take a hit if you have the cash flow with you in terms of number of members who are joining your community. So an example here could be Deutsch in Tandem, which is a community for learning German language on LikeMinds, and they have these events around people who are looking for guidance around getting internship, education, jobs in Germany. So this is a great way for them to acquire more members into their community and add value to their members as well. So some of these events are generally a good practice is to have a good mix of member exclusive events, which are free or discounted for the members, and then you can have open events where again you allow members from like non-members to join the events, but you charge a premium over and above what you're charging to your members on top of it. The last model, and I'll be very quick here, is as the name suggests, lead generation and brand collaboration model. This is generally done once you have some sort of retained members in your community. So for example, if you've already been running your community for a while now, you've created like that influence into your members, and you're able to sort of get certain, I would say, vendors who would be interested in adding value to your members, and you could charge a small fee to those vendors, either to be part of your events or to be, let's say, sponsoring your events. Let's say you could have certain vendors who could sponsor for your swags, for your community events. Or you could have, let's say, certain vendors who want leads for your for certain services that they can offer to your members. In those cases, you can discuss what is the way to qualify a lead for the vendor, and then circulate, let's say, a form or any form of content which the members can show interest in, and then you can pass on those leads to the specific vendor. The other model that a lot of vendors would want to do with you is affiliate marketing, where they would be happy to share revenue with you in terms of a closure. I would say do affiliate marketing if it's non-human intervention, because if it's a manual effort that will go from the vendor side, it is generally going to be dependent on their efforts and their ability to convert your leads. And you will see a lot of times vendors would want to bypass you and not report the right numbers to you. So my advice would be to go for qualified leads, charging for qualified leads to your vendors, or do affiliate marketing if it's fully tech enabled from the vendor side. Now, in the last part of this session, I want to cover, how to identify your niche. So you've learned how to create your pitch. You've learned the whole structure of monetizing your community. You've learned different type of models to sort of monetize your community. Now, this is very important that, especially in a micro community, when you're just starting up, you need to find your niche in your early days, and we've come up with a framework for that. So on the right side of the screen, if you see, we've written, these 8 examples of different categories, or you can say subcategories of communities. The first 5 written here are examples of what we call as micro schools with the objective of learning. Health, I could still say, is little different, but language, exam preparation, teaching a life skill, teaching an art and craft. These are generally communities where you as an instructor, you promise them that they will be able to learn these things, and you need to have some credible background or some level of work you'll need to do so that you can give that confidence that you can run this micro school with them. Now, of course, within a micro school, there are a lot of use cases like, peer-to-peer discussions, peer-to-peer networking. They will come and they will be an important part of your community, but you need to be confident that you can train them, the early first 5 or 10 members, let's say via certain events or whatever way, you have figured out. You need to run as the instructor in the early days for those members in whatever capacity you can, and if you don't have that ability, you need to get certain instructors on board before getting the members on board. Health and fitness is a very, very specific case where this micro school ends up with an outcome of improving the health. So I would say this is slightly different, but again, broadly in the micro school category. The 6th and 7th example category written here is micro entrepreneurship and career building. Here, the outcome for the members is, making money. So, think of yourself as, let's say, an agency who can not only train the members on some outcome, but you can also train them on making more money. So, for example, if you want to build a community for, painters, it could be a micro school where you are teaching people who are starting painting as a hobby, whereas you could also build a community which is focused towards people who are professional painters, and you want to help them in monetizing that skill. So see, that's the difference. The first one is a hobby community for painting hobbyists, whereas the second one is a community for painting professionals. And you need to narrow down your focus. Who do you want to cater to in the early days? Because the needs of a professional painter will be very different than the needs of a hobbyist who is just wanting to learn painting. So that is why it is very, very important to identify your niche, whether it's in this case, whether it's an art and craft micro school kind of niche, or whether it is a career building niche where you are helping these painters to be better in their career. And the last example is entertainment experiences, which we feel is a very, very wide and upcoming category of community. Here, the members would generally pay for having a better fun experience, which they are generally not able to get elsewhere. So the key recipe for this is your ability to curate certain activities, like online events or offline events, or making people meet each other, having like that buddy system where people can make friends with each other. You can do a lot of quizzes. So, we have some of these templates. You should definitely ask your LikeMinds buddy for that. But the idea here is that people would pay for entertainment experiences. So yeah, with that, I would like to conclude this, this session, and I hope that you were able to, learn the whole framework, and you will be able to identify the niche. Remember, the most important part is you need to add value to the early members of your community, and then build trust and continue on that as an ongoing process. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for patiently listening, and bye. Have fun.